Welcome back to Falling in Love with Hope K. I know it's been like 6 months. Yes, the last video I posted was my birthday video. So yes, I'm very late, but better late than never. But we're just going to get right into it. If you follow me on Instagram, you've already seen that my word for the year is surrender. The word for the video, or the topic for the video, is going to be surrender. There's two categories that I'll talk about. So the first one is the category that I would be falling into, which is learning to surrender again. I feel like when you have been on your faith journey or walking with the Lord for a really long time, it can start to feel repetitive or like ritualistic. You go to church, you might read a Bible verse, you might pray. If you do pray, it may not be the level of depth that it should be. And everything just kind of feels like I'm just going through everyday life. And yes, you want this to be, your lifestyle. You live, eat, and breathe Jesus. But you also want to make sure that you stay in a posture of surrender, because I think when you get to the point where things start to feel like rituals, you feel like you can depend on God less, or that you need to depend on Him less, and you're more prone to just kind of haphazardly do things, not really take your faith into consideration. And even though you may not be overtly making sinful decisions, you may very well still be making choices that are not in alignment with your purpose or God's will for your life, because you have lost that surrender. Then the next bucket that you may want to think about is if this is your first time surrendering. So, and this could be for new believers, and this could be for seasoned believers. You could have been walking with God for a really long time, and you haven't fully surrendered, or there's certain aspects or parts of your life that you've never surrendered. And you may be new, and this is your first time really saying, I really want to do what God's will for my life is. And before I kind of get into these little points of why surrendering may be challenging for some people, I do want to say that surrender doesn't mean do nothing. It doesn't mean to make an excuse to be stagnant, or to not move, or to be hesitant, or have anxiety and then blame it on, I'm waiting to hear from God, or I'm waiting to find out what God's will is. Surrender is more so going forth, but leaving room in your plans for God to change your direction as He sees fit. So in one vein, we may have someone who they aren't surrendering, but they have like a false surrender, and they're really doing absolutely nothing because they are afraid of making the wrong decision, or they're just unclear or uncertain of what they should do, and they're overly cautious, and they may say, I'm surrendering, but really they're just not moving. And then you have another vein where people are just kind of doing everything and then some without really taking anything into consideration. And that's not really surrendering either. So really the focus is, this is the vision that I have, this is the plan that I have, this is the idea that I have, but I won't be so married to this plan that I can't pivot. And I'll say for myself, that's challenging as a planner, as somebody who's type A, as somebody who typically leans a little bit more on the anxious side. I can make plans to things and become very married to the idea of them. I'm very committed to the plan, and that can make change challenging. And it's not only important to have surrender in a spiritual sense, but in a natural sense. It's more so releasing control. And I have learned in my professional life that I do have to be able to make a plan, but also be able to pivot, because there may be someone who comes in and they enhance the plan, or they change the plan, or that I add or subtract things from the plan. And I found that when I'm not open to surrender or open to change, I can have ill feelings when the plans change. And some of that is rooted in fear, but some of it is also rooted in pride and thinking, well, this was the idea that I came up with. When I came up with the idea, I felt like it was the best course of action. So who are you to come in and then change that course of action? And a lot of times we do that in our faith journey. We have this idea of how we want things to go, or we think things should go. And if the Lord comes in and says something else, that pride is like, well, wait a minute, God. I got comfortable. This is the plan that I made. This is what I said I wanted to do. How can you just come in and wreck this whole plan? So it's that delicate balance of having faith that something will happen, but also trusting God if He alters that plan. So one reason why we may struggle to surrender is due to our timelines. So again, we make that plan, and we have a very particular way of how we want things to pan out. I want to have graduated by this time. I want to have been married by this time. I want to have bought a house by this time. I want to have gone on this number of adventures or excursions by this time. I want to be here by this time. And when surrender threatens the timeline, sometimes we don't surrender, because it's like, okay, well, this is the plan that I had. This is how it lines up. And if I surrender, my plan could be off course. This can take longer, or it can take shorter. Sometimes I've seen people where they get a blessing and they're like, no, I wanted this 2 years from now, or I wanted this 5 years from now. And they get so overwhelmed because they weren't expecting things to happen so quickly. And you just have to make sure that your heart is surrendered and open, because you really never know what course life is going to take. You never know when your time is going to come, but you also never know when your time is going to be delayed. So you have to keep an open mind. And then the second reason why we may struggle to surrender is due to fear. So kind of going off the trend of, maybe this is happening too soon, or maybe it's happening right on time. There's some things that may happen in the plan, and if it happens off course, we may feel anxious, and we may feel, what if I'm not prepared for this like I thought I did, like I thought I was. And in one of my videos, I talk about self-sabotage. And you can self-sabotage things when you don't surrender, because our pastor actually was talking about this last Sunday when he was talking about just being hopeful. And he was in Luke, I believe, Luke chapter 1. I'm pretty sure it goes with this verse on my wrist. But he was talking about how Elizabeth was going to birth John the Baptist, and her husband wasn't believing. And they were old, and the circumstance were just looking like, no, this is not going to happen. And he was speaking negatively about her bearing a child. And God was like, you know what, you gonna hush, because I know this is going to happen. And you're speaking ill on this situation that I already know is going to come to pass. So you can just be quiet until it comes to pass, because you're not going to be fear mongering everybody else because you don't think it's going to happen. And he mentioned, sometimes we pray for things, and sometimes we're asking for things, and sometimes we have thoroughly prepared for things, and when the opportunity comes, we mess it up because I don't think we think about how scary it is for our prayers to be answered. We ask for things, and sometimes it's overwhelming when you see them start to unfold. And it makes me think about the verse, God will open up a window and pour you out a blessing, so that you will not have room to receive it. And that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like when God is moving, and it really feels like, oh my gosh, this is what I wanted. It's not what I thought I wanted. It really is something that I wanted. But I'm so fearful of mishandling it, or fearful that I'm not ready, or fearful that, this is just too much, that I become overwhelmed and I can't receive it. So you really even need the Holy Spirit just to receive what he has for you, because it is really true that he does exceeding abundantly above all you can ask or think. And we say that, and we say it like we want it, like, yeah, he's gonna do exceeding abundantly, abundantly. And we jumping around the church, and we have, you won't have room enough to receive it. But do you know what that looks like? Like, think about, you have a bowl and somebody's pouring water in the bowl, and your bowl is getting up to the brim, and you're like, okay, stop, it's gonna spill. And they keep pouring. You're like, okay, stop, it's gonna spill, I'm gonna be soaked. Then they keep pouring, the water's just like swimming in a waterfall. That's scary. And if you don't surrender, and you don't really believe that God is going to, give you the things to handle it, and he's going to give you the extra equipment that you need to carry it, you can run from exactly what you're asking for, because you haven't surrendered. Like, yeah, this is the plan. I believe God is going to do this, but I also have to surrender and believe that God is going to sustain it. And then the last reason why we may lack surrender is due to a lack of faith. So again, this all kind of plays into one another. Okay, this timeline is not what I thought it was going to be. Now I'm fearful, and I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I'm feeling underwhelmed. And now it's taking a toll on your faith. And it's like, okay, all these things that you thought and believed and all that, exceeding abundantly above all you can ask or think, and open up a window, pour you out a blessing, it slowly starts to disintegrate. And when things aren't looking the way that you plan, you start to question yourself, you start to question God, you start to question your faith. And I'll be honest and say that I was in that space this year. And I think it was really good that I was off social media, because it was all coinciding with my own personal struggles, watching things happen in the world, and arguing and fighting, and it just felt hopeless. And for the first time, I started to question, am I crazy? Is this real? Am I stupid? Am I insane? Am I a crazy lady? And you may not have been at that point, but if you have been at that point in your life before where you really are questioning, did I make a mistake somewhere along the way in thinking that any of this was possible? And that's a very dangerous place to be. It's a dangerous place to be. It's because this is what all of your hope is in. This is your motivation. This is what's keeping you going. This is what created you. So getting in a space where you're questioning faith, you're really questioning your existence and everything that you've known. And it is important. I think it is important for everybody to have that moment, because I think that is the moment where you really are honest with yourself about where you are. And I think that is the place where God really meets you, and it either makes or breaks your faith. And not just in what you want to happen, but just in God as a whole. And in that space, you do need to remember all of the times that you surrender and all of the things that you have gone through. It's something that they mentioned in the life group as well. It's also an opportunity for you to get more educated about your faith. So you may have come to faith through another person. You may have come to faith through, this is just what my family does. I grew up going to church, or I'm dating someone and this is what they do. So this is something that I just, put on. And it can be hard to have true surrender when your faith is hand-me-down faith. So it is important that you go on that journey and you seek the Lord for yourself, and you ask questions, and you cry, and you be frustrated, and you be confused. But even in all that knowledge that you gain and that understanding that you gain, understanding that even in that you surrender, because all of your questions will never be answered. So you can be the most studious, you can be the most well researched, but you also need to, again, leave that room in your heart for surrender, that you won't know it all. You never will. And one verse that I just wanted to highlight is Proverbs 19:21. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. So create the plan, but surrender to the purpose. And as a type A planning type of girl, oh my, there's so many plans, so many plans that I made that are not happening. Haven't happened, don't know when, don't know where, don't know if. And that is something that I really had to confront this year and just be honest that there's a lot of things that don't look the way I thought that they would look. And there's a lot of things that look better. So different doesn't always mean bad. It can mean better. Different can mean better. And in this year, especially as I approach 30, which I have mixed bag of emotions, I just really want to surrender so I can move into a new decade of my life with clarity. And I think this will allow me to take more risks. The thing about being a planner, again, it's hard to pivot. So I do want to take more risks in life. And I've been doing that. I'm really proud of the work that I have done in 29. And just the risks that I have taken, the way that I have put myself out there, put my heart out there, spoke my mind, spoke my piece, advocated for myself, done things alone, done things scared. So I'm excited for 2026. I'm anxious for 2026, but mostly excited. I have had a lot of wins being more visible. At work, definitely visible. Definitely visible, and I'm grateful. I have people who I work with who see me and who push me to get out of my comfort zone, and they see things in me that I won't say I don't see in myself. I do see them, but I'm not always confident enough to be who I know I am. So I'm really grateful for that. And just friends who see me, friends who push me out. I wish I had a recording of the poem I did. I think it was May, and I wasn't going to do it. I just didn't really want. I genuinely didn't want to. And open mic night was over, and I'm like, no, it's over. He said this was the last person. It's okay. I don't have to do it. And one of my friends went up and he was like, oh, Brittany wants to do a poem. And I'm like, Brittany, I said I ain't gonna do no poem. But I'm glad I did it. I'm really glad that I did it. And I'm really grateful for just the opportunities to get out there. I was on the panel in February talking about sexual purity. And I just be signing up for stuff. I don't think I even signed up to be on the panel. I just was like, oh, if you want any questions or suggestions or ideas, I'm planning to do a Bible study on this topic, and I've already done a lot of studying about it. Then they asked me to be on the panel. I said, oh, okay. I was so nervous, but I think it was definitely a blessing for me. It was a blessing for others. Had the summer Bible study on sexual purity, and it was a wonderful turnout, and I'm grateful that I was obedient to doing that. And just so many other areas, of courage, even in my personal life, like if you were a fly on the wall, and just speaking up and advocating and like, no, I'm actually not going to go with the flow, and I actually don't like this, and I actually don't appreciate this, or I do appreciate this, and I want to be more confident and forthcoming even about the things that I'm liking and the things that I'm enjoying. So yeah, I said so many times in this video. I didn't prepare much and I went off the dome, but I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Happy New Year. I pray that everyone has a blessed New Year, and I'm excited and I'm nervous. Jesus, I'll probably do my next video in February. I'm not going to overcommit, but February is achievable. So thank you for tuning in to Falling in Love with Hope K. Okay, I want to play a song. 21 minutes. That's great. It'll probably end up being like 15 minutes. This is going to be my life soundtrack this year, and I love this song. Here I am, down on my knees again, surrendering all, surrendering all, and find me here, Lord, as you draw me near. I'm desperate for you. I'm desperate for you. I surrender. What did he say? Drench my soul. Oh, I don't be knowing the verses. Drench my soul, His mercy and grace unfold. I hunger and thirst. I hunger and thirst. With arms stretched wide, I know you hear my cry. Speak to me now. Speak to me now. I surrender. I surrender. I wanna know you, Lord. I wanna know you, Lord. I surrender. I surrender. I wanna know you, Lord. I wanna know you, Lord. Now this better have recorded, because if it didn't, you know how mad I'm gonna be?